calorie restriction is important to lose weight, but this is not the first. Before you restrict calories, there is one more important thing you need to do. That is, if you do all these things first before cutting down the calories, then you are able to win the race of weight loss. Hi, this is Dr. Bharadwaj. I am weight loss specialist at Fit in 6. Today we are going to discuss one of the important topics that is related to weight loss. So everyone knows that if we spend more calories than what we intake, you will lose weight. If you ingest or if you eat more calories than you expend, so you will gain weight. Or if the calories that you are expending are equal to the calories you are taking, you will not lose weight, you will maintain weight. So many of the weight loss coaches who are babas, who doesn't have knowledge and who has not come from medical background, who doesn't know about anatomy, physiology, histology, pathology, all these things, they give wrong advice to you, saying that if you want to lose weight, you need to cut down the calories, you need to take the less calories. So everyone knows it, but there is a caveat to it. So what happens is they will keep you on a diet, so that they will restrict the calories, they will bring the calories down. Once they bring the calories down, what next happens is you will have all these problems, like you will have nausea, sensation of vomiting, you will have anxiety, you will have hunger, lot of hunger you feel, there is no satiety, and also you feel lot of headaches, you have shiverings, you have giddiness, you have fainting. Uh, after a while, what you do is you will start to eat all the junk food, because your body is craving for the calories. You eat all the junk food, again you fast for some time. Over a period of time, what happens is you think that this calorie restriction is not working, and you give up fasting, or you give up reducing the calories. This is not the way to do. What is the right way to do is, there are two things. One is calorie restriction, bringing down the calories. One more important thing is insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is, see, your body is full of fat, right? You have fat under the skin, you have fat in the belly, but you are not able to use it. Why you are not able to use it? The reason is you have insulin resistance. Before you bring down the calories, right, by eating, if you want to eat less calories so that you want to lose weight, first you have to, what you have to do is you have to train your body to eat on its own fat, the fat which is under your skin or the fat which is in belly. To do that, what you have to do is you have to fix insulin resistance. Unless you have insulin resistance, if you have insulin resistance in your body, you are not going to utilize your fat, you feel hungry, right? So what happens is you are not utilizing your fat which is in the body, because of insulin resistance, and you are not giving calories from the outside, so your body will not have any calories to work. That's the reason it gets all these symptoms, like headache, nausea, vomiting, giddiness, shivering, anxiety, stress, all this comes, and you give up fasting. Before you cut down the calories, the important thing you have to do is bringing the insulin resistance down. You have to reduce the insulin resistance. So I will explain you all these things in the board, how to, what is insulin resistance, how to reduce the insulin resistance, so that in Fit in 6 program you can use these techniques to reduce the fat and you become lean. Let's go to the board. So two things, one is intake and one is outgoing or expenditure. In, right, one is out. See, you are eating something, that is intake. The calories which you eat, if the calories are less, and out, which you are expenditure, which you are expending, if these are more, you are taking less and spending more, then you lose weight. Okay, your intake is less, your expenditure is more, you lose weight. And your intake is high and your expenditure is less, you are not expending calories, so you gain weight. Okay, and if your intake and if your expenditure are same, you maintain weight. So all the diet coaches who are available now, who don't have any idea about anatomy, histology, physiology, pathology, biochemistry, biophysics, they come from other backgrounds like MCA and engineering background. Some even doesn't have any knowledge, or so most of the people are illiterate. What they do is they go to this equation, so that what they do is they will reduce the intake, right? Suddenly from tomorrow you have to take less carbohydrate, less fat, and everything they cut down, so that you will lose weight. What happens is, you have fat in your body, right? You are not able to use it because you don't have that metabolism. When you reduce the intake of carbohydrates and everything, so your body will starve. It will not have for any work to do, to for you to think, for you to bathe, for you to walk, for you to talk, everything needs energy. That energy is suddenly cut down, and because of that you will land into hunger. There is no satiety, and there is no energy in your body. Because of that, what happens is, you will get shivering, you will get headache, you will get fainting, so you will go into anxiety, you will go into depression. All these things happen. Because of that, you will have all these symptoms, and you think that this is not working, and you give up your weight loss journey. This is not the way to do. So calorie restriction is important to lose weight, but this is not the first. Before you restrict calories, there is one more important thing you need to do, that is insulin resistance. You have lot of insulin resistance in your body. That's the reason you are not able to use your own body fat. Before you cut down the calories and you lose weight, important thing to fix is insulin resistance. We will discuss now what is insulin resistance, how to fix it. We will clear this. Now we will look into insulin resistance. Let's understand what is insulin resistance. Insulin resistance, insulin resistance. Okay, what is this insulin resistance? So if you divide the body into three parts, okay, this is your body where the fat is stored. Fat is stored at two places. One is under the skin. Okay, under the skin the fat is stored. Next place is in the belly. You have plenty of fat under the skin, maybe under the skin of the chest, skin of the neck, skin of the thighs, skin of the hands, everywhere, and also in the belly, inside the belly. Okay, you have fat. These are two types of fat is stored. You are not able to use this fat because of one thing, that is insulin. So the fat in your skin and the fat in your belly is completely surrounded by insulin. Insulin is a hormone which will not make the fat to come out of the reserve and make it use as energy. Unless you reduce the insulin, your body cannot use the fat in the belly or the fat in the skin for energy. You have to bring the insulin down. Unless you bring the insulin down, it comes to zero, you will not use this. So what is insulin resistance? This is mouth. So when you ingest something into mouth, what do you ingest? One is carbohydrates, maybe sugars, okay, maybe sugar, jaggery, and honey. Okay, you ingest them. This is all calories. Once you take them, or cereals like rice, wheat, maize, jawar, badra, ragi. So all these are cereals. Cereals. These are the two main carbohydrate sources in the human body. Once you take sugars or once you take cereals, these put carbohydrate into blood. This is blood. Okay, this comes to the blood in the form of glucose. Once these come into the blood in the form of glucose, pancreas is there. Pancreas is a organ which is located in your body. It produces insulin. What this insulin does is, insulin converts this carbohydrate and put under your skin or under your belly in the form of fat. You take carbohydrates, blood glucose is raised, pancreas senses the amount of glucose in the blood, and pancreas releases insulin into the blood. Once this insulin is released, what insulin does is, it will convert this glucose into skin fat and belly fat. This is how the fat is deposited. The main function of insulin is to produce fat. Okay, the main function of insulin is to produce fat. Unless you have low insulin, you will not lose fat. Insulin is fat depositing hormone. Once you have higher amount of insulin in your body, it will deposit fat. To use the fat as energy, you have to bring this insulin down. You have lot of insulin. Why do you have lot of insulin? Because you are eating lot of carbohydrate. All this carbohydrate is going and dumping into your belly fat under your skin as fat. So all this glucose is converted into fat and it is depositing in your skin fat and belly fat. That is how insulin is produced. Insulin makes the fat to deposit. In order to bring the fat out of the fat cells and use it as energy, what you need to do is you need to bring the insulin down. How do you bring the insulin down? So fat is a reserve form of energy. Unless you break the fat and use it as energy, you will not lose weight. So unless you have the insulin, if you have the insulin, it will not allow the fat to break down and use the fat as energy. Insulin is always fat producing hormone. The exact opposite hormone is glucagon. Glucagon breaks down the fat so that the fat is used as energy. What happens in this is you have lot of insulin in your body and you are not giving carbohydrate from the outside. So it is like starving your body. So there are no carbo. You have cut down the carbohydrates. The weight loss coaches has thought that you have to bring the calories down so that your body loses weight. What they do is they will cut down the calories in the form of sugar and cereals. Then what happens? There is no energy in your body. You have high insulin in your body. That's the reason you are not able to use the body fat. Because of these two effects, you feel lot of hunger, lot of anxiety, lot of depression, lot of headache, shivering, giddiness, all these things you feel and you give up the fasting. This is not the way to do. Before you cut down the calories, what you have to do is you have to reduce the insulin resistance. How do you reduce the insulin resistance? We will check now. Until you bring the insulin down in your body, you will not going to use the fat as energy. Normally you can see kids, they will not have sugar, right? Maybe you take 10 or 15 years kid, they take lot of carbohydrates in the form of juices, in the form of cool drinks, in the form of junk food. They take lot of carbohydrate into their body, but their glucose levels stay normal, right? They will not have high glucose levels. Once they cross 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, then their glucose levels start to rise. That is, what is that? That is sugar or diabetes mellitus. But still they have high amounts of insulin in their body. That is known as insulin resistance. Even though they are able to regulate the blood glucose levels, but still they have their insulin levels too much high. That is known as insulin resistance. That's the reason all these kids, even though their blood reports showing normal for HbA1c and glucose, they still have insulin resistance. There is insulin resistance for at least 10 to 20 years before it develops into full-blown diabetes mellitus or sugar. This insulin resistance is much dangerous than other diseases. That's the reason you have to bring this insulin resistance down. So what is insulin resistance? Even though you have enough insulin in your body is not converting fat, glucose into fat. So for example, there is a fat cell, right? There is insulin surrounding the fat cell. Initially, when the fat cell is small, with small amount of insulin, the glucose goes and deposited in the form of fat. But the fat cell becomes large, okay, and there is no fat, there is no space for the fat to enter. That's the reason more insulin is released, more insulin is needed to push that glucose into the cell. That's the reason our pancreas produces more insulin than required. Okay, that is insulin resistance. Even though the fat cell is surrounded by insulin, it is not letting the fat in. That is known as insulin resistance, and it is not allowing the fat to come out so that it will be used as energy. We have to bring this down. How do you reduce the insulin down? Before you cut down the calories, before you come down on the cereals, before you come down on the sugars, what you have to do is you have to reduce the insulin resistance. Once you reduce the insulin resistance, then your body start to use your own fat. How do we do that? We will check it now. What is the way to reduce the insulin resistance? First way to reduce the insulin resistance is through proper diet. So what you have to do is you have to increase the fat in the diet. You have to increase a good amount of fat. Lot of fat you have to take initially. So what type of fat you have to take? What type of fat you should not take? The fat you should be taking is saturated fat and monounsaturated fat, that is olive oil or coconut oil. All these things you can take. Monounsaturated fat and omega 3 fatty acids. These type of fats you have to take, so that your insulin will reduce, insulin resistance will reduce, and your body develops the mechanism to use the stored fat. This you have to do first. Next, in order to reduce the insulin, next important thing is sleep. You have to sleep 7 to 9 hours of deep sleep every day. If you have 7 to 9 hours of deep sleep, your insulin will reduce, your insulin resistance will reduce, and your body will start to use the fat which is present in your body. Next one is exercise. There are 9 varieties of exercise you can do. Some of the exercises will increase insulin resistance, some of the exercises will decrease insulin resistance. To decrease insulin resistance, what you have to do is mostly zone 2 cardio. Okay, when you do zone 2 cardio exercise, it will reduce the insulin resistance. So this is about exercise. And the next one is stress. When you are in stress, cortisol hormone will release. This cortisol hormone will increase the insulin resistance. To reduce the insulin resistance, you have to uh, keep yourself stress free, so that the insulin resistance is reduced. And also you have to come out of addictions like alcohol, smoking. Alcohol and smoking will increase the insulin resistance. It will not allow your body to burn fat. That's the reason you have to bring down alcohol and smoking. If you do all these things first before cutting down the calories, then you are able to win the race of weight loss. Once your body starts or develop the mechanism to use your own body fat by reducing the insulin resistance, then you have to cut down the calories. If you don't address the insulin resistance first, and if you cut down the calories, you will have a lot of problems, and you will think that the weight loss program is not working, and you will give up. This is the way to come out of the body fat. This is where you need expert advice. So you don't need just an advice, you need expert advice who is well qualified, well knowledgeable, well experienced in cutting down the weight. To know more about insulin resistance and to know more about the exercise, diet, sleep, how to do that, join in Fit in 6 program, so that you will lose weight in a scientific way permanently without side effects. Thank you.